So the first thing that I wanted to do was actually to thank um, all of the ladies who made it possible for me to be here today presenting this project. Um, and also not just the allWomen team and all the instructions, which were just fabulous, but also the colleagues who have been with me throughout this very overwhelming and difficult but exciting journey. So thank you all very much. And I'm very excited to present this today because it's my attempt to solve an actual problem in my work routine. So my project is NLP for NCM codes. And well, the first thing that we need to do would be to address the most obvious question, which is what is an NCM code? And in order to do that, I just wanted to ask, how does customs know what it is that you're shipping? I mean, my routine is basically import and export processes. So this is something that we get asked all the time, what it is that we are shipping indeed. And customs will ask you for a description, but a description is not going to be enough because as you can see here, we have two very different things under the same word. So this is why there is a code, and you could call it a customs text code, but it is a little bit more than that. And the NCM in particular is applied within the Mercosur, which is in South America, but other countries apply different systems which are similar. And basically what it tells you is how much you'll be paying in Texas. So if you're importing, for example, a grizzly bear, if you have a circus, or if you have a zoo, or any other situation named here, you would be paying 3.2% import tax. Whereas if you have a teddy bear, then you'll be paying 20% tax, which is quite different. But you can see here that, for example, whenever we have more interference, human interference in the process of creating this item, then we have a higher chapter, which means that chapter 01, humans do not make bears. So this is why it's there. And then humans do make stuffed animals. So it's in chapter 95. And it works sort of like this. Every two numbers, every two digits, there's a meaning. So if you have this teddy bear, you would have chapter 95, which is toys and articles for entertainment. And 9503 would be real toys and dolls. And then 00, toys that represent animals. And then 31 with stuffing. And we have a little over 10,000 codes, which is, well, kind of a lot. So the purpose here is to get the technical description, which you cannot just submit the word bear to customs. They're going to give you trouble for this. So you have to give it a little bit more of a technical, detailed description, and then using NLP to give me a suggestion and try to predict which would be the correct code for that particular item. So my real data actually looks a lot more like this than the previous images. And this is the data from a steel manufacturing plant expansion that's being imported into Brazil. There are around 3,000 items or 2,000 rows. And this is the actual file that is used to control the import procedures. And just for the record, my manager has looked at this presentation just to make sure that I'm not sharing any confidential or sensitive information. And so pre-processing, which was basically importing, checking info, and dealing with the missing values. And this is a data set that I'm very familiarized with. I mean, I work with this every single day. So it was basically a matter of selecting the columns of interest and leaving out the sensitive information, which is quite critical. As for the EDA, this right here represents the percentage of codes per NCM. And well, if you're building a factory, basically, you're going to have a lot of tiny little parts, probably made out of iron or steel. In this case, we have 25% of all the codes as other works of iron or steel. And then the little things that hold them together, which are screws and pins and nuts and things like that. And then accessories for pipes, lots of pipes involved. So this makes sense because it's all the tiny components that generate a lot of items, and they're imported a lot of times in order to build this factory. And then if we're going to look at the ship weight for NCM in terms of weight, how much has been imported and which item that corresponds to, I mean, I have the first one, 9406, which is about 600 tons of prefabricated buildings. Just for you to have an idea, 100 tons would be a blue whale. So I have about 6 of them of just prefabricated buildings. And that makes sense, right? Building a building. And here, I just wanted to show you the end directive. I have 9406 actually coming from Brazil, which totally makes sense because if we're building something and we're buying something that's prefabricated and it's like a wall, it makes no sense to ship it from elsewhere, but to perhaps just buy it locally. And if we're trying to guess, like, where do most of the items come from? And your guess is China. You're probably right, because there's a lot of stuff coming from China. And if we hover over Japan, for example, it's a very specific item. And Canada, as I said before, the higher the chapter, the more human interference and probably the higher technology. So we're looking at a developed country shipping very specific things in a very high chapter. So yes, this does make sense. And then we have the NLP part, which was basically cleaning this data. And as you can see here, the before and the after, we have a lot of removing stop words and also removing the numbers, which initially I thought would make a really big difference, but going forward, I'd like to share the results for you. Vectorizing using TF-IDF, and then building a recommender system using KNN. Looking at the metrics, after we got the 10 recommended NCMs or the 10 nearest neighbors, I was looking for the mode, which was the most frequently recommended code out of the 10. And then 80% of the times, the mode was actually the correct NCM code, which is very exciting. And then out of the 10 recommended NCMs or recommended neighbors, there's a hit ratio of 95%, which is I give a list of 10, and then 95% of the times the correct code will be in the recommendations. And the way that this helps me is I cannot authorize a shipment if I don't have an NCM code, because the NCM code is what's going to tell me if this is prohibited, if this is requires a license and everything else. So this is why it's so important to have this in a timely manner. And going forward, I'm actually going to apply this to the English description to see how it works, and to maybe not even have to translate before having to authorize the shipment. Basically, this is it. And thank you very much. If you have any questions, I would be happy to address them.